Joining us on the program to talk more about the Catholic Student Organization at the University of Houston are two students, Tailene Morales and Christopher Onyebuchi. We appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, Tailene, let me start with you. Tell me a little bit about the Catholic Newman Center at the campus of the University of Houston. I know a lot of people may know that U of H has a Catholic community, but they may not know a whole lot about what you guys do.
Yes. So our Catholic Newman Center is our Catholic campus ministry at our university, at our very secular university. So it's a place for students to continue their faith journey. We offer the sacraments, small groups, daily mass, adoration all throughout the week. And it's just a place for community. We have places for students to study, a kitchen for them to cook. And it's just a great place for them to encounter each other in community, I would say.
I know that the University of Houston is a big commuter school. A lot of people come from all around the greater Houston area. And so I know that sometimes that makes it hard to get together on weekends in particular, like to go to Sunday morning mass. So my understanding is that you guys have some pretty big programs during the weekdays. So Tailene, what's going on Thursdays that I heard that could be pretty popular?
Thursdays, yes. So our Catholic Student Organization puts on our community nights every Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. But even before that, we have our daily mass at 12, which is followed by our Thursday lunch and learn. So we usually bring in speakers to come. We have food, lunch. They nourish us spiritually and physically. We get to talk with each other. And then that evening, we have our community nights, which could range from speakers to games to anything in between.
Very good. So, Tailene, you are the president of the CSO, Catholic Student Organization.
Yes.
And Christopher, you are the social outreach director. So tell me a little bit about what that kind of involves. What kind of work do you do with that?
Yes, as Director of Social Outreach at the University of Houston, Catholic COOGS, it's a pretty flexible role, but essentially the role has to do with being a point of communication between our organization and other student organization. And that could be campus ministries, just regular student organizations on our campus, or even extend beyond our campus. So we're talking other colleges, things like that.
Very good. So tell me a little bit about that interaction and how it goes.
Yes, I was personally drawn to this role because I believe it can serve as a means of a means of evangelization. So I can work with other leaders of these student ministries or organizations to collaborate and host events where we can bring members of our different communities together, to foster a sense of community between our student leaders, student members, and be able to have people of different backgrounds, to share something, to direct ourselves into loving each other, serving each other.
Is that rewarding for you to do stuff?
Yes, it is very rewarding for me because I believe we are, in a sense, fulfilling the Great Commission Jesus tells us to go and make disciples of all nations. And in putting ourselves in these environments, we can be instruments of God. We can be his hands and feet in the world in loving people.
I think that's a fantastic ministry as part of the work that you do because, sometimes I can imagine that students kind of get nervous when they get together or initially meeting new people and stuff like that. And in some sense, the programs and the events that you guys do help people to come together, to make friends, and to be able to sort of form that social group that they need and then continue that to build on that for evangelization efforts. So in addition to that, Christopher, you have a particular interest personally in St. Thomas Aquinas. You're also listed on the website as Aquinas 101 Leaders. So tell me a little bit about that and your interest in Thomistic theology.
Yes, sure. So my particular interest in St. Thomas Aquinas dates back to about a year and a half ago when I reverted back to the Catholic faith. And I had not received my sacrament of confirmation. And so I was looking for a saint. I was looking at a list of saints. And I saw St. Thomas Aquinas. And I was like, oh, this guy's a really smart guy, apparently. Like, I'm going to choose him. And that sort of set off a trajectory in my whole life. Through St. Thomas Aquinas, I was able to discover that our faith is reasonable. It's something we can think through. It's something that we can understand. And this opened a whole new door for me. And as I began to learn more about St. Thomas and what he teaches, I'm also learning about what the Catholic Church teaches. And it's also influencing my prayer life. It's also influencing my spiritual life and how I'm growing closer to God. Because you can't love someone who you do not know. And so through these teachers, I'm also able to learn more about God so that I may love him better. So I was learning these things through Aquinas 101 videos. Aquinas 101 is a project of the Thomistic Institute, which is a larger academic institution started by the Dominican friars of the Eastern Province in the Dominican House of Studies. And so they have this project known as Aquinas 101, when they have video courses on different topics surrounding Catholic theology and philosophy. So things such as on the sacraments, on the incarnation, on the Trinity, on God's nature, and how these relate in the intellectual tradition of the Catholic faith. I was privileged enough to start a chapter at the University of Houston. And so one of these things we do as a chapter is that we can invite scholars from around the world to give topics on these very difficult questions. So things like, why did God become man? Can we know that God exists? Even ranging to different sciences, the science and faith discussion on business ethics, political theory, and much more. So another thing we do is the Aquinas 101 small groups. And so we get together to watch these Aquinas 101 videos and discuss about them, to ask ourselves questions, how we can grow in knowing more about what St. Thomas Aquinas is teaching about the church and the faith.
Yeah, I appreciate your clarifying that, because I would think for somebody who hasn't studied St. Thomas Aquinas like you haven't read any of his books or things, it can seem overwhelming at first because there's a lot to his theology and stuff that he talks about. So that makes sense to me that you get a group together, maybe of students who've never studied him before and can just watch the video and then discuss it, because they kind of, the Dominicans kind of break it down in parts like that. So that's great. Tailene, I mentioned to Christopher, we mentioned his confirmation saint. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you what your confirmation saint is, or his special devotions.
Yes, so my confirmation saint is Saint Lucy, patron saint of eyes. So my whole story with her, I wear glasses. When I was really little, I was diagnosed with a lazy eye, and I was about 6 years old. And so from there, my family started praying novenas, asking for her intercession, and I wore an eye patch for a while, but through her intercession, I no longer have a lazy eye. I can legally drive without my glasses.
You don't have to pretend to be a pirate anymore.
No more pirate days.
Okay.
So once it was around the time I was getting confirmed, I knew I wanted her to be my confirmation saint, and she's been very present throughout my life as well. But some other devotions I have are to the Rosary, but also to Saint Therese of Lisieux, and she's the whole reason why I am in Houston. Another novena story was my last year in high school in the college application process. I had gotten a scholarship to Texas State University. Thought I was going to go there. Wasn't in love with the school, but I was like, well, I can pay for this. And my mom had prayed a novena, and on the last day of it, I received like a small scholarship from my school, and the tradition is to give a rose to someone important in your life. And so Saint Therese of Lisieux, a big thing with her novena is you often get a rose as a sign. I'd given that to my mom. The next day I got an email from the University of Houston. They accepted me and given me a better scholarship, and I thought it was a scam. And so my mom, after I had called her, letting her know I got the email, she explained to me that it was God and Saint Therese praying for me. And the rest is history, and now I'm here, and I've grown incredibly in my faith through our Catholic Newman Center and the Catholic Student Organization. So I have a great devotion to Saint Therese. I'm very thankful for her prayers for me.
Sure, what a powerful story.
I would not be here if it were not for her.
Yeah, and I can understand why you were hesitant at first. It's almost like, wait, this seems too good to be true.
Yes.
And you have to really double check and make sure. That's fantastic. Well, Tailene, tell me, as a person of faith, when you're on campus at U of H, you had mentioned that it's a very secular campus. There are a lot of people who not only may not know, the Christian faith, but may not know God at all. So what's it like? What's the big challenges for college students nowadays for just trying to live out your faith on a day-to-day basis?
I think one of the challenges of being at a secular campus especially can come during political seasons, election seasons, and that kind of thing, when everything is heightened, especially in classes. I myself have experienced professors being very open about different political opinions that are contrary to the faith, as well as just openly not liking the Catholic faith. And I'm not sure if all students experience that, but it can be hard to be in a classroom where you're being taught things that go against what we believe, as well as just being in an environment where a lot of sinful things are considered normal, whether that is in dating culture or cheating on assignments, that's prevalent everywhere. But I think being around a community and building community can really help lessen that, because when you're around people who are challenging you, iron sharpens iron type of thing, it's easier to fight back and have support to not fall into those things.
Christopher, I want to follow up by asking you that same kind of question. If what you kind of think are some of the challenges of being a person of faith, a person who follows Jesus Christ, but if you mention that in a secular environment, the fact that you like, say, Thomas Aquinas, for example, or you've studied theology, I imagine sometimes people might give you a weird look or look at you strange. I imagine you must have had that before.
Yeah, I'll say with St. Thomas and his teachings on our faith, one particular reason I really liked studying St. Thomas was because it can serve as a bridge between our faith and other faiths. Because we're able to understand, to an extent, what our faith teaches, we're able to, in a sense, bridge the gap and actually reason between what we believe and what other people believe. And so, because, in a sense, we're all intelligent creatures, by the very fact that we're human beings, we're rational creatures. And so, one of the ways we grow is that we exchange concepts with each other. We exchange truths with each other. And so that way, promoting dialogue with other people, we can also not only understand them, but they can, in a sense, get to understand us, understand, okay, why we believe these things. I wanted to mention like a funny story that happened to me about 2 years ago. I was taking a class the class was called Bible and Western Culture, and it was by a Lutheran professor. And during this time, I was in the process of reverting back to the Catholic faith. And funny enough, the professor made sure in every single class to say something very sly about the Catholic faith. So definitely that semester was one of an experience of humbling, because I had to keep myself reserved and not, in a sense, allow pride to overcome me and lashing out at the professor. So that's just some of the experience I've experienced.
Wow, powerful stories from the both of you, and a reminder to be part and to have God in your heart, but also have that community around you. You'd made reference earlier to iron sharpen irons and how important that is. So, Tailene, then just to follow up, then I'm guessing a lot of that is one of the reasons why the Catholic Student Organization was something that you felt drawn to and liked and continued to want to be a part of and participate in.
Yes. So coming out of high school, that was around the time, around 18 years old, was when I really started to take independence in my faith. I was born a cradle Catholic, grew up in the faith, but I never had a youth group. I was not involved in youth group at all growing up. I didn't have Catholic community with other teens and young adults. So coming to college was the first time I experienced authentic Catholic community with young adults. And being around that was the first time it was really breaking these stereotypes of what it means to be a Catholic, to be authentically Catholic and live out your faith day to day. It doesn't look one type of way. And I think you meet people who are authentically themselves, authentically joyful. They're not getting rid of their personality to love God. If anything, God brings that out more. And he uses your talents. And I think that was the first time I saw that. And I think that's what really drew me to staying at the Catholic Newman Center and being part of the organization and eventually getting involved in leadership, because you see this authentic joy for the first time, or at least I did, in those students. And that's something you want to be a part of, for sure.
Yeah. Christopher, I want to ask you the same question, what you like about the Catholic Student Organization and felt drawn to, not only to join, but then also to participate over the years.
Yes, when I reverted back to the Catholic faith, I made the initiative to start going to the Newman Center. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I've stayed is definitely because of the people there. I've been able to foster very meaningful relationships in my life that still continue to influence me to this day. And I think it's something I was definitely missing before my reversion. And so I think people really make a home what it is. And so I think the Catholic Newman Center on our campus is a very great, loving home.
Very good. Tailene, we've mentioned this before, but tell me about Mass on campus. Mass is in confession. When do most of the time do students get to do that?
Yes, so we have Mass every weekday, well, Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock. So,
Okay.
right, lunchtime, 12 p.m., we have Mass, Monday through Thursday. But for all of the students who live on campus, even though we're mostly a commuter school, and anyone who wants to join, we have Sunday Mass. We have two most of the time at 10:45 a.m. It is at the University of Houston's 80 Bruce Religion Center. So it's a shared religion center, but we have Mass there on Sundays at 10:45 a.m. and then 6 p.m. at our Catholic Newman Center on Sundays. But for confession, every weekday, Monday through Thursday, that we have that 12 p.m. Mass, we have confessions at 11:30, so 30 minutes before Mass. But any student is welcome to make an appointment with Father at any point in the week that he's available. You're more than welcome to just come in and ask if he's free and sit down and have a confession with him, for sure.
Well, tell me the name of y'all's priest and what you like about him.
Yes, our priest is Father Quang Nguyen. We love him. He's so funny, such a joy to be around. He was definitely the first priest that I made a good personal relationship with. But he's definitely a jokester, I would say.
Yeah,
Any jokes with you, Chris?
definitely because he's funny.
Yes.
I feel like you kind of have to be because you're going to be coming across a lot of different people, different students of different majors and stuff like that. And I guess he has to be very relatable, right?
Yes,
Yes.
I'll say so. Yes.
Yeah, or at least approachable, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. One final question, Tailene. I talked with you about your favorite devotions. You mentioned St. Lucy, Teresa Lisieux. Christopher, I wanted to ask you if you have any favorite prayers.
Definitely the Rosary. I can obviously talk extensively about the Rosary, but its stamp of approval by God on the Church with the many miracles it has, the many popes that have authenticated the Rosary. The Rosary is definitely something that's influenced my life a whole lot more since I started praying it. Another, I would say, is the Angelic Warfare Confraternity, which is a confraternity which has as its principal virtues chastity and purity. And it has the patrons of the confraternity as St. Thomas, who is known as the Angelic Doctor because of his great purity and chastity, and also the Blessed Virgin Mary. The devotion consists of daily prayers of 15 Hail Marys and a prayer of St. Thomas to Jesus for chastity and purity, and a prayer to St. Thomas for chastity and purity.
Very good. Well, it's definitely appropriate. Here on this program, we frequently talk about the fact that we are in spiritual warfare. And so we need all the help from the saints for their intercession and, of course, from Jesus himself to help strengthen us in that sense. Tailene, before we go, I want to ask you if people want to learn more about Catholic Student Organization at the University of Houston. Give me the website. Give me some of the basic information.
Yes, so if you want to learn more, get to know us a little bit better, they should go to uhcatholic.org.
Okay.
So just uhcatholic.org. There you can learn more about the different small groups we're doing, get in contact with Father Quang, as well as our campus minister, Celicia Miller. She's amazing. If they want to get involved in the service opportunities that we have, they should go ahead and email her, and she can connect them with herself or any students that are leading different programs, as well as if they'd like to donate to help continue our organization, continue our Newman Center, to put on the retreats that we do and the different small groups that we have throughout the year. They can also find that on our website, so uhcatholic.org.
Very good. So people can make the donation there. Contact Celicia for that. You guys also have some adults who come in and help in terms of volunteer capacity as well. So I'm thinking, for example, you guys have Bible studies where you get some help from young adults too, right?
Yeah, so all of our small groups are led by student leaders, and they go through a training. We do have some adults come in.
But they can contact like Celicia for figuring out how they can help in different capacities.
Yes, if they want to know any of the details, they should definitely get into contact with Celicia.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, that's good to know that people can make a monetary donation. And then, of course, if they're an adult that just wants to help out every now and then for events and stuff like that on campus or at the Catholic Newman Center, they can do so. Very good. Well, we appreciate your time. I know you guys have busy schedules as students. So Tailene Morales, Christopher Onyebuchi, thank you both so much for coming here and telling us a little bit about the Catholic Newman Center and your own faith. We appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for
having
having
us.